Hi and welcome to the We Need a Roads podcast. And David, the way I see it, if you're going to build a time machine into a car, why not do it with some style? And speaking of style, here is my co-host David Long, who will be rocking an old man style from now on, now that he has reached the ancient age of 30 quite recently.
Oh, that's cold. That's a cold way to start. Is that how you want to go, Neil? Is that how you want to go? You want to take me on early?
I am so old, I have trouble remembering how old I actually am.
You know, it's okay, Neil.
And that will happen to you.
I got my pink gin and lemonade. Feeling very manly. It's a midlife crisis. That's what I'm calling it. I bought the other day. I was at Comic-Con the other day, Neil.
Yes.
I saw the myth himself, the man Christopher Lloyd. He's still alive, which is nice.
Well, I was going to say, David, yeah. So you went to Comic-Con in London recently, where the legend himself, Doc Brown, Christopher Lloyd, was there, and you could get a picture with him in front of the clock tower set up, in front of DeLorean, because I've seen lots of people have had those pictures and posted them on Twitter. And my question for you, David, is, did you get a photo? And if you didn't, what is your measly yellow chicken shit excuse?
Okay, so I didn't have the money. It's very expensive to me. It was like £40 or £30 just to talk to him for like 10 seconds. That's a lot of money just to talk to somebody.
And in those 10 seconds, you could have got him to say, "Great Scott, you're listening to the We Need a Roads podcast."
Somehow, some sort of licensing thing would probably... I feel like there'd be a problem there. But I could have had the photograph. I saw him taking photographs of people. People weren't even getting to talk to him in that point. It was literally in pose out. And the bloke was wearing... Christopher Lloyd was wearing just like a black tee. He looked like hardly bothered to even be there. He might have been really lovely when people actually met him. I don't know, because I didn't meet him. But it did look a bit like he was there for the paycheck or whatever. And then
yeah, but that's what the pictures are for, mate. It's going, pose, go out. You don't like
chat
to them.
The autograph.
If you get when you go up and get exactly.
But that was like the whole thing was like £150 or something, and I've got a wedding to pay for, Neil, and I spent more money on something else that I shouldn't have done. My midlife crisis thing. I got myself a Conan sword.
Oh no. So
the sword from Conan the Barbarian, but
I mean,
Neil,
that's cool.
Oh,
that's cool.
It gets wait, Neil. It gets cooler.
You didn't buy the loincloth to go with it, did you?
No, I did not. I got it signed by... I have forgotten the bloke's name. That is really bad. David Harbour. You might be thinking, what does David Harbour and the Conan the Barbarian sword have in common?
Well, actually, I do know this, David, because that's the sword he uses to kill one of the Demigorgons in the Russia scene in the latest series of Stranger Things.
Exactly, Neil. So I got that sword signed by him, which I think is pretty awesome. I think it will be a nice little collection to my swords, and because I've got a few swords, as you know.
That actually does make up for not getting a picture with the Doc himself. Well, it almost makes up for it. I mean, getting Hopper to sign a Conan sword is pretty cool. It's pretty cool. I'll give you that.
I thought it was pretty cool as well. It hasn't arrived yet, so I don't actually have it. But when I do, I'll take a picture of it for you.
Excellente. Right. Well, after your triumphant sword gathering mission, I guess, you've had quite a bit of free time on your hands, David, recently. You know, you're moving between jobs, I think it's fair to say. You're looking forward to your new job you're starting soon. But in that little gap, you have got yourself a Cineworld card, and you have done a me, essentially, and you've been watching everything. You've even covered 2 films coming up this episode that I haven't seen. But admittedly, that's because one is an animation and the other is a musical biopic. And you are going to be talking about...
that would be Lightyear, Neil, and a little film called Elvis. It's about a bloke, you've probably never heard of him. Maybe he was before... Actually, no, he was probably bang on your time. Elvis. Yeah.
Oh, I was just about to say, David, you know, before you were 30, right? You were in your 20s, I was in my 40s. There was 2 decades between us. Now you're in your 30s, and I'm still in my 40s.
You know what? I'm closer to 40 than I am 20, which is sad. You know what? I found myself recently, that these last 2 years, with the whole age thing, I found myself, when watching TV shows or musicals or films, whatever, relating more to, like, parents than the teenagers or, like, the 20-year-old kids or whatever in shows. And that was a weird transition for me.
For me, I'm going to be talking Justin Herzwell's harrowing drama Nitram, which won lead actor Caleb Landry Jones the Best Actor Award at the Cannes Film Festival this year. In TV reviews, I'm going to be talking Yellowstone prequel 1883 on Paramount Plus, and one of the most unlikely shows you would expect to see me reviewing, which is a BBC's drama about 20-something women in Camden called Everything I Know About Love. And finally, in our spoilers section, we're going to give our thoughts on the finale of Kenobi, and we're going to delve a little deeper into Scott Derrickson's The Black Phone. But first, after I posted on Twitter that in our previous episode we'd be talking about Squid Game Season 2 and the reality show that is coming as well, I only got an invite from the shadowy cabal to apply to be on the show from someone who you hope works in casting for it. Yeah, I literally had a message, David, saying, don't worry about Squid Game 2, why don't you apply for Squid Game, the challenge?
Yeah, I saw that. You should do it. Can we do it? Can we both do it? Think of the promotional material we can do.
Yeah, the little problem is, I've got a rant here for this. Now, before everyone says do it, to apply, you just need to have a spare 3 to 4 months off and have your passport to travel internationally between 3 to 4 different countries. Now, I'm sorry, but who in the actual fuck has 3 to 4 months they can take off work in any real job? And also, aren't the makers of this missing the whole point of the show, which was that the games were created for fun by super rich people to exploit the poor and working classes for their amusement, right?
Isn't that not just every TV show, ever?
But with the reality TV show, what working class person can afford to take 3 to 4 months off work to take part in a reality show? That means most of your contestants are going to be college-age kids or people who've retired or rich people who can afford to take that long off work. So they're kind of missing the whole point of the original show, right?
Did you look into the T's and C's? Could you see if they, if you get paid, if they pay the time off that you've missed from work and stuff like that?
I doubt it, because if you win, you get 4.5 million.
Yeah, but if you lose, what do you get? You just go home, a nice holiday.
You go home a loser.
But you got the story to tell, to say that, hey, I was on a Squid Game once.
Yeah, I was one of the 200 people eliminated in the very first episode in the massive game of red light, green light. Because that's exactly what they're going to do to whittle the cast down.
You could put that on on your tombstone. That's pretty cool.
Do you know what? I did message him back though, and I said, do you know what? If Arnold Schwarzenegger's hosting, I'll be there. Haven't heard back yet, David. Haven't heard back. Anyway, so briefly, we got a little bit of news, and it's the next year's Emmys. And the big news is everyone was moaning about The Boys being snubbed because of release bollocks, and apparently it was 3 days too late. So, once again, Anthony Starr has still not won for Homelander. And also, there was nothing for another show that was really good this past year, Reservation Dogs. But do you know what? Generally, I think they are pretty strong nominations for me this year. The thing is, there are so many shows now nominated at the Emmys, and there is so much content out there that I thought they did a pretty good job spreading out the nominations between all different shows. Having said that, though, if you go on Twitter, it literally just seems like it's currently ablaze with, I can't believe this person on the show was not nominated. Rage, right. It's snubs. But look, the only one I really, really agree with, bar obviously the bollocks to do with The Boys, is one of your favourite shows of last year, David, and that was...
Midnight Mass, wasn't it, Neil?
Midnight Mass.
I've seen it as well. The upheaval. Because Rahul Kohli, he's not a happy man about it.
He had a good old rant, didn't he? That was legendary rant from Rahul Kohli online, yeah.
Yeah, he's got a point. The horror genre does seem to just constantly not get the recognition that it deserves in a lot of respect, especially Hamish, the bloke that played Father.
Hamish Linklater, yep.
Yeah. What did he play? Father Paul was his name? I can't remember.
Yep. That was Father Paul.
He should have got best. At least, would you class him as the main character?
Yeah, I would, 100%. No, he's the lead character.
The lead, yeah.
They generally get put in categories though that they're more likely to win, right? So he arguably he would have been put into that. But I will say, once again, here's the nominations and here's the big hitters. Succession leads the way with 25 nominations. And you know what? I'm still only about midway through season 1.
I've never watched one episode, and for some reason, that's a show that's just never appealed to me. I feel like is that a show that appeals more to US audiences than it does to UK audience?
I'm not sure because I'm not sure actually because I know my parents watch it. My mum loves it.
Okay, because I don't know anybody that watches that show.
And yet it's one of these ones that wins all the awards all the time. I mean, I get it. Like it's really well written. The performances are great. I think the problem I have connecting to the first season, and people have said it does improve and get better in that, but it's that none of the characters are likeable. They're all absolute arseholes backstabbing each other all the time. And you need a little bit of lightness once in a while, man. You need a little bit of lightness. And this is not that show. I was quite surprised by The White Lotus getting 20 nominations. Do you remember I talked about that a little while ago on last year's pod?
Yeah.
Did you ever get around to watching that?
I did not, no. And Yellow Jackets I saw as well, which you were big on.
Oh, yeah. Yellow Jackets got 7, which is great. I mean, and that is quite a genre show. That's got quite a strong horror bent to it. So that arguably had more horrific scenes in it. when you said about Midnight Mass not being nominated because it's horror, Yellow Jackets has definitely got a strong horror vibe to quite a lot of it. And for a brand new show as well to get 7, I think it was really good. Euphoria, which you and me are now both too old to watch, got 16 nominations. HBO's comedy about comedians Hacks, which is on Amazon Prime over here, I've only heard great things about and I've also still not seen, got 17 nominations. The Brilliant Barry, which I believe we're going to talk about in an upcoming episode with guest Charlie Gallagher, because I've got him onto the Barry bandwagon now and he's a big fan of it. Good old-fashioned Ted Lasso's got 20. Severance, my current frontrunner for show of the year, got 14. Stranger Things 13. Squid Game 14. Ozark 13. And at the end of the day, honestly, do you know what? I'm a bit over awards ceremonies and all that mock outrage of shows and movies. I like, people go, it's just exhausting reading through it all. My favourite show didn't get nominated. Travesty. There's so many shows now, man.
Yeah, no, I agree. Is Squid Game the only foreign film, the only foreign show nominated for anything?
I'm not going to say 100% because there are so many categories, man.
Yeah. But like the main ones, it does seem to be that I can't see anything in there. And so why is that? Why is it the only foreign? Because there's a lot of good foreign TV out there.
Well, because it was Netflix's biggest hit. That's why, arguably, if it wasn't those viewing figures, I don't think it would have been nominated again.
See, that's stupid.
As we said, man, there is so much content out there at the moment, probably more than any other time in the history of everything. So, of course, not everything's going to be nominated.
What are we victims of, Neil?
Content. I'm just not. I can't be bothered to even get mock angry about stuff like online. Now you see all these comments. I'm just like, yeah.
Yeah, I suppose The Boys was a bit of a piss take, though. To be honest, that it, like you said, it missed out by 3 days. Because that's another one. Homelander.
Anthony Starr. He's got to win at some point.
Fuck
Best
me,
actor.
Yeah. He was so good this season.
There was a bit of him lasering someone in half, and I just said, and this is going to be exactly a scene in season 4 when Dawn of the Seven doesn't get nominated for any Oscars and Homelander just lasers a member of the Academy in half. And that'll be their little dig at the Emmys, I reckon.
That would be fucking brilliant. You might be onto something there. That is definitely something they would do.
I tweeted it at Eric Kripke, so you never know, man. You never know. I just that would fit so well. Here you go. You can have it for free, Eric. I'm totally fine with that. So, on to reviews, and it's 1 for the money, 2 for the show, but it's not a show, David, it's a film, and that film is...
I think it's Elvis, Neil. I'm going to go with Elvis. Final answer. Was I correct?
Yes.
You meant to say, you meant to put the whole ding-dong sounds in there. Anyway, yes. Elvis, the musical biopic, which was directed by Baz Luhrmann, and it is probably the most Baz Luhrmanniest? Luhrmanniest? Yeah, I'm going to go with that. The Baz Luhrmanniest film that I've seen in a long time. It is frantic in its pacing, and it uses a lot of crazy transitions. It shows the story of him from a young age and his rise to fame with his manager, Colonel Tom Parker. Now, it's a biopic that centres obviously around Elvis being the title character, but Tom Hanks as Tom Parker, the Colonel, is just as big a character in the show, and it's a biopic on him as well as Elvis. I'm not a big Elvis fan in terms of his music and everything, the history of him, so I didn't have a bloody clue who Colonel Tom Parker even was. The story and the background and the history that they both have between each other and how Elvis was essentially fucked over was really quite interesting, and Austin Butler's performance as the man himself, the king, is going to be breakthrough for him. I think he's already you've seen him in places where you've probably never seen him before, and he's now a name that is on people's lips. Yeah, it's going to be, I think it will be, and it has transitioned to being a breakout role for him. He is phenomenal in the film. But my biggest issue with it as a whole is the film's 2 hours and 40 minutes long. Now, when I went to see it in the middle of the day, because I didn't have anything else to do, the only other people seeing it were retired old people who, the elderly, who might have grown up on Elvis, most likely, knew a bit more about him. Now, the elderly don't have great bladder control, Neil. So constantly people were getting up and leaving to go to the toilet, maybe 2 or 3 times in the film, missing half of it because the film.
Did they come back?
They did come back. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They left 2 or 3 times just to go to the toilet. the film goes on for 2 hours and 40 minutes roughly, and it's so frantically paced that in that time that you go out and go for a wee and come back, you won't have a fucking clue where you're at in the storyline, because it doesn't settle upon any real moment in Elvis's life long enough for you to care about what's happening. There's a lot. I feel like the time that it spent the longest on was the Christmas special that he did. That he just rocked out, and it was fucking awesome. But there was a lot of political stuff going on in the background between Colonel Tom Parker and other people basically trying to make money off Elvis. That's the only time that the film really settled upon one moment. Aside from that, he went from being this nobody that had one record to and was like getting local fame to a fucking outright superstar like that. And then you were like, oh, okay, shit, we're in the story. And then it just it kept going and it kept going. And Baz Luhrmann did not let it ease up. The transitions all swirly and fucking Vegas lights everywhere. It was like, I think I'm going to stick with the Luhrmanniest film I've seen from him in a long time. But it matched I think Luhrmann as the director and his visual style and everything matched Elvis as the man himself quite nicely. Yeah, because Elvis was he lived his life the seat of his pants, let's say. He was quite frantic with his women, with his drug abuse. He was very family orientated, but he was very conflicting. He was a conflicted man. And I feel like Luhrmann's style beautifully reflected that and Austin Butler's performance, obviously coupled with everything, and everything was very harmonious.
Right, see, I'm going to watch it at some point, but like you say, I'm not that big an Elvis fan, so I've just got a thing about biopics that if I'm not really that massively interested in the person or people it's about, then I'm not really that fussed about watching it.
I can understand.
The trailer really put me off wanting to see it as well, because, and like you said, the kinetic pace of it. I get what the film studio is trying to do. They're going to right, we want young people to come and see it as well as just old people, and therefore we're going to make it all fast and flashy and wow and there. And that is not actually going to probably bring in that many young people to see it, and it's just going to piss off the sort of main age group that were there to see it. I think and it could be just me being boring, but I thought a much more straight ahead, start to finish, grittier biopic might have worked. Then you could have gone into those sequences and the drug bits and the Vegas bits and all those years and kind of play it a bit straighter earlier on. And the one thing that really annoyed me in the trailer was, you've got Elvis, right? Now, even if you don't like his music, it's iconic. The man was a legend. Therefore, why have you got dance remixes and why have you got other music in the trailer for his own film, his own story? That just, to me, was like, what are you doing?
Okay, so on other music in the film, I actually thought that there were some of the sequences where they used modern music was
why
done...
Why is there modern music in an Elvis film?
So I thought that was actually done to perfection, because the story heavily portrays Elvis as a influencer that blurred the lines between black and white, between black culture and white culture, because he was essentially a white man performing and playing black music. So he blurred the line, and he was a very a figurehead in breaking down that boundary between what was black and white. The modern day black cultural music that was used, I thought perfectly portrayed his influence on today's modern music and today's society, to complement what was being shown on the screen at that time, where we were at in the story, and what he was struggling with or what he was conflicted with. It perfectly presented and portrayed that to me, and I genuinely, when I can't remember the song exactly, but when it happened, and I was like, you know what, that's a fucking beautiful moment. Touche to you. I just think. Also, I'll tell you another problem I got with musical biopics now. When you see it and you understand what I'm talking about.
If I'm honest, I'll have probably forgotten. I think my problem with musical biopics can be traced back to a film called Walk Hard. Have you ever heard of Walk Hard, David?
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever heard of the film called Walk Hard?
Yeah, I said yes, but I can't remember what it was about.
So it's John C. Reilly and Pam from The Office, and it is essentially a piss take of the Johnny Cash film that came out that Joaquin Phoenix won the Oscar for, and it's almost a shot for shot.
Was that Walk the Line? Was that
Walk the Line? That's it. And so this one's called Walk Hard.
Yeah.
And it's literally an absolute piss take of that film. And anytime there's a musical biopic comes out, I'm just like, I can't take it seriously. Because every musical biopic has the same kind of thing. They get famous and they get into drugs and it becomes so formulaic. I love it that in this one, in Walk Hard, like John C. Reilly, he goes back into the dressing room and sees his band for the first time, and they're smoking marijuana, and he's just like, "Yo, you don't want any of this shit, Dewey. This is marijuana." "Oh, well, what's it do?" "It makes you feel really relaxed and chilled out." "Well, I think I might want to try some of that marijuana." "No, it's not habit forming." and then every time they'll be every half an hour later in the film, he'll wander into the dressing room and they're doing something else, and he'll tell you all the positives of doing it. And he's like, "Oh, I think I want to try me some of that heroin." And it takes the piss out of all those films so much.
Right.
It's very funny, man.
So with Elvis, it obviously touches upon his drug abuse and his adultery, womanizing, but it doesn't lean on it as much as a story element. It's more his being burnt out by the constant work that he's having to do, and drugs are having to supplement that, and his lifestyle is killing him. And it is more to do with how he blurred the line between black and white. That is a key element of the biopic. It's more about the racial connotation and his fear of assassination, basically, at the time when everyone was getting killed for having a voice. His voice was pretty big, and he was afraid of that. And it doesn't actually lean too heavily on his drug use and his womanizing. It's more his relationship with his manager and how that progressed and became toxic over time.
I suppose my main question is, did you enjoy it?
I did enjoy it. It was a good 4-star film, 4 out of 5 stars.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch it at some point.
It's worth it for Butler's performance.
Yeah, exactly. I think just from the trailer, I was like, it looks like this kid's gonna knock it out.
Although having said that, I don't think Tom Hanks gave a very good performance.
2 hours 40 minutes, man, of Lermism, Bazin. I'm just not that interested. I'm not a fan of his style.
You should go see it for Austin Butler's performance alone, Neil. But on talking about performances, I personally think Tom Hanks might have been miscast as the Colonel. I don't think you need somebody like Tom Hanks to really be in the film at all with that sort of star level. I think Elvis, the person, is the massive star. You don't need an actor to be a name in the film. And I think Tom Hanks, I could never get over the fact that I was watching Tom Hanks. It felt like a typical Tom Hanks performance.
How can it feel like a typical Tom Hanks performance if he's playing an absolute arsehole?
That's a very good point, Neil. But it did somehow. Because
Hanks is usually the good guy.
I know, yeah. I know what you're saying. But somehow it did. I could never get over the fact that it was Tom Hanks. Maybe that was it. Maybe because he's always the good guy, and I was just like, this ain't Tom Hanks. What is this?
And to counterpoint your idea that, well, wait a minute, we need perhaps not a big name actor against him, but you just said most of the film is about the toxic relationship between Elvis and Tom Parker. So you do need a big...
No. You could have had another lesser known actor play the manager, and the film still would have sold as much because it's Elvis. Elvis is what sells the film. Tom Hanks doesn't.
Well, I think they tried to sell the film on the fact, it's Baz Luhrmann, whoosh, 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 cameras everywhere. So anyway, from the bright lights of Las Vegas to Australia. And a few weeks back, Cineworld were doing one of their unlimited preview screenings for a new film called Nitram, which I hadn't heard anything about at all, but a quick Google let me know it is an Aussie film starring Texan actor Caleb Landry Jones, and it was about the Port Arthur shooting in Australia from 1996, which at the time was Australia's deadliest mass shooting incident, which immediately prompted a ban on most firearms in Australia.
I was going to say, is that the event that made all guns
pretty much
one mass shooting, and that happened. Then they decided to ban all guns, and everybody was fine with it.
So the film is directed by Justin Kurzel, who got his start with a version of Macbeth, starring Michael Fassbender back in 2015. He followed it up with the pretty poorly received Assassin's Creed, also starring Michael Fassbender, and then he took a 3-year break before 2019's True History of the Kelly Gang. Then COVID hit, and in that time was when he made his next film, which was this, Nitram. Now, I knew going in this was going to be a difficult watch, but also it's a kind of film that doesn't really get seen in a big screen often. Especially in a place like a Cineworld. I was amazed they actually had it on. It wasn't on a regular run, to be fair. It wasn't released wide, I don't think. It was just on that preview that one night. So, and I think I might have actually got distracted watching this at home because it's quite a slow burn film. Whereas in the cinema, I think it commands your full attention. You get sucked into it a lot more. There's nothing there to distract you. Now, I've listened to some recent interviews with Kurzel, and he's mentioned how there was immediate resistance to even the concept of making the film, and it was even debated in Australian Parliament whether they should be allowed to. I'm not quite sure how Parliament could, actually stop it, but the fact that the film was even made is somewhat of an achievement, to be fair. Now, the opening scene, and I'm going to get into minor spoilers here, but I'm not going to reveal too much about the way the film, the major plot points of the film.
No, don't. Don't, because I want to see this. I missed out on it by a day.
Yeah.
On my Cineworld card.
Well, the opening scene is a shocker because you get old TV news footage showing you a young Nitram in hospital on a kid's ward where he's burned his hands from playing with fireworks. And then the reporter asks him, well, what have you learned? You're not going to do that again, will you? And he goes, yeah, I will. And shockingly, this is apparently real footage of the actual guy back in the day. And I mean, I had to check that afterwards because I thought, that looks really, they've done a really good job of making it like early 80s aesthetic to it. And no, it was real footage of the guy as a kid. So what is Nitram about? Well, it's a psychological slow burn drama about the life and descent of an intellectually disabled young man nicknamed Nitram. His real name is never mentioned in the film because obviously the filmmakers don't want to even give any credit, not credit. The filmmakers don't want to even mention the guy's name, which is fair enough. We see that Nitram is living with his parents and having trouble adapting to, the regular outside world. He can't make friends or have relationships with anyone his own age. We learn that his father, who's played by an unrecognisable Anthony LaPaglia, who most people usually forget is actually Australian, and he's saving up to buy a B&B that he wants to run with his son one day. His mother continually harangues him and is played with great exasperation by the great Judy Davis. And we see through Caleb Landry's portrayal early on that he isn't inherently evil, but his mental state and low IQ clearly mean he has trouble forming relationships with people his own age group. He wants to get money for a surfboard to befriend the older, cool surfer group of kids, and he begins going door to door to try and find work mowing people's lawns. It's here he meets an older lady called Helen, who's played by Kurzel's wife and the other great Davis in the film, great Aussie actress Essie Davis. Now, Helen lives in a massive house in a kind of sad malaise with tons of cats and dogs by herself. And in Nitram, she recognises a similar soul, and they form a really weird friendship and bond. It's not like a sexual one. It's not like a mother-son kind of one. They're just kind of two lost souls who find a friend in each other. And then we learn that Helen actually owns a massive company, and she has nothing to do, and she's extremely rich. And they kind of start living together, and cracks really start appearing in their friendship, and you kind of see repeats of some of Nitram's earlier bad behaviour, and you can see it's going to continue to escalate. So I'm not going to get too much more into how that part of the film develops, but the two scenes I do have to mention is probably the most chilling scene in the film is when he begins buying his arsenal of weapons, and it's just a matter-of-factness and ignoring of all the gun rules and regulations that is so downplayed and almost thrown away as not really important, that shocks in the film. All the gun ownership sees when this guy walks in, he's got a bag of money, and he immediately forgoes any checks or any of the rules just to make money. The shooting scene, which obviously the film is leading up to, is handled as well as it could be, in that the film builds up to it, but it doesn't feel the need to, or that we would want to see, show the actual murders on screen. As we said,
it takes place over multiple sites, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Doesn't he start? I know, because my partner quite likes this sort of stuff. It's quite frightening. But I think with this, doesn't it start like he goes into cafes and then a gift shop?
But in the film, you kind of see him set up for it, and then obviously the film ends because they don't want to show it, which is completely fine. And like I mentioned earlier on, indeed, this is one single atrocity that made the Australian government pass stringent gun rules immediately, something that we mentioned earlier that America seems like it will never do. However, and I wonder whether to say this or not, there is a few lines of text at the end of the film that are truly shocking. And yeah, I'm not going to spoil it here, but they completely floored me. You know, 'cause I thought like the end of the film it was going to say, and because of this incident, Australia immediately banned guns, and since then there's not been, you know.
Does it attack America?
I'm not going to tell you what it says, but the end.
Does it tell you how many people have died
No.
through gun violence in America?
No. I'm not going to tell you any more on it. I'm going to want you to see it. I want you to see the film, and for everyone listening, I want you to see the film because the text at the end, the way the film had gone, and because of what had happened, because of the incident in real life in Australia, I was surprised at what the filmmakers tell us at the end of the film. I was honestly shocked by what it said. Nitram, it's not an easy watch. It's slow, and it does walk the very fine line of showing a mass murderer on screen without making him too sympathetic or obviously too evil. Caleb Landry Jones does an amazing job taking into account he's actually Texan, not Australian. This is a powerful film with a massively important central message, but I will say to people, I think you need to be in the right frame of mind before you watch this, but I would heavily give this, I'm going to say 8 out of 10, an 8 out of 10 for this one. It's a recommendation. It's a strong recommendation, but I think you have to know the subject matter before you go in and make sure you're in the right frame of mind for a slow burn story.
Well, didn't you go into this blind?
All I knew, I didn't know anything when I went to this. So, like, for example, I know in a couple of weeks' time, I'm going to see Where the Crawdads Sing. And I know it's this massive film based on a book. But again, I've not watched a trailer. I've not read anything about it. And I'm just going to go in blind and see it. And honestly, that should be the way most of us go in to see a film. I was really annoyed actually the other week. They showed the second trailer for Nope. And I was like, Nope! Because you literally showed way too much information about the story in it.
Yeah, more than you needed.
More than you needed.
I like that. I'm trying to do that with reviews. I'm trying to not look at reviews before going in to see something. I'll still watch a trailer or whatever. But I'm trying to do it more with not look at reviews.
Exactly. I think once you've gone and seen a film and go, hey, let's go and see what Neil and David thought about it. In your weeks and weeks of being a man of leisure recently, David, and where you've been at the cinema more than me, because that's just ridiculous. What else have you seen?
We went to see Lightyear, which is the Pixar film, the new Pixar film, which is set in the world of Toy Story. So it's a film set in a film about toys. So it's basically pitched as for Christmas or for his birthday. It was his birthday, wasn't it? Andy got a toy, his favourite toy, which was from his favourite movie. This is that movie. So we're seeing the film, which was the reason why Andy loved Buzz Lightyear so much. Why the fuck he liked this film so much, I don't particularly know.
Whoa, so this doesn't sound like it's going to be a positive review, David.
No, this is more along the negative lines. In fact, I've never been as disappointed by a Pixar release as I was with Lightyear for a very long time.
Oh.
So the film's premise is Buzz Lightyear and his best friend, Star Command person. I think they are. I think she's the boss, Alicia Hawthorne. There's two Hawthornes. There's Izzy Hawthorne and Alicia Hawthorne. I'm pretty sure this one's Alicia Hawthorne. They turn up on a planet. Shit goes wrong. They're on a space colony ship. Buzz crashes the ship, and they're basically marooned on this planet. And they set up because there's a colony of humans. They set up a colony to live on this planet. They start to acclimatize with the life here, whilst Buzz and the two space rangers are on a mission to try and find hyperspace, to try and create hyperspace and test hyperspace so that they can leave the planet and finally go home. Now, that's basically the plot of the entire film. When using hyperspace, every time Buzz goes into space and tests some of the hyperdrive and the hyperspace stuff, he ends up going forward in time, and over time, and the film, and eventually the people that he was friends with, and Alicia becomes an old lady and all that sort of stuff. And then that's sort of the beginning and the setup of the entire film. That's what's driving the film. And then comes into counter with the ruthless Commander Zurg, who's attempting to steal the fuel source for himself. That's that's pretty much the entire film in its premise. The big problem for me with this film is, aside from the fact that it's not particularly very funny or heartfelt, which is what I think Pixar really does well, is its characters, and it really makes you want to look like it makes you really emotionally bonded and attached to the characters. It does its character work probably better than most animations out there outside of Japanese animation, probably. The conflict that drives the film, for me, isn't strong enough. Buzz is constantly going forth into space, constantly, to try and complete the mission and to arrive home because of his past failure in crashing the ship. That isn't a big enough conflict to warrant the internal battle that Buzz has in not wanting to just acclimatize like everybody else did and live their lives on this planet. If they'd have given Buzz a family to go home to, a reason why he wants to get home, it would have made a lot more sense, and that would have really given Buzz it would have given him that conflict within himself between finding and leaving the planet or staying. For me, is the biggest problem. It doesn't have any of that emotional impact or comedy or love that you get with Pixar films. In
Toy Story, because I've not watched them for quite a while, but I remember that the character of Buzz was kind of like a buffoon. Like the whole joke was he thought he was the character and he wasn't. He was a toy. So I don't get how it works. Is he the same Buzz Lightyear as the toy, or is the film that the toy was based on? So in which case, it's not actually the same character.
Yeah. So he's basically the character of Buzz Lightyear. He's voiced by Chris Evans. That should be mentioned. He's not voiced by Tim Allen. Chris Evans does a fine job of voicing him. To be honest, after you notice it for the first 10 minutes that it's not Tim Allen's voice, and then afterwards you just crack on with it. But it is essentially Buzz Lightyear in Toy Story at the very beginning of Toy Story, where he thinks he is a space ranger. Because he is a space ranger in this film, you know.
What about the cat? I saw in the trailer. I saw the cat.
The cat's the best thing about the film, hands down. The cat Socks. The name. It's the best thing about the film, and the Socks doesn't get that much screen time, and that kind of says a lot about the film. That this fucking cat is probably the best thing about it. He's the one real comedic element. There are other comedic elements, for instance, Taika Waititi's
Get in, yes. Yes, Taika. Be in all media this year.
But again, people like comedic elements as well. Other characters, like lesser characters that, frankly, are quite forgettable. None of them have the emotional impact, or you don't remember them like you would remember the character, like the external characters in, like the other characters in Toy Story, for instance, or A Bug's Life, or even newer ones like Inside Out or Up. Any
the classic
Pixar
Pixar, yeah.
film.
Well, I suppose even the more recent ones like Encanto.
Exactly, Encanto. Even Soul, you know, was good and had characters that you'd remember. In this, I genuinely struggled to remember any other character outside of Buzz, the Hawthorne Girls, and Socks.
When we get our Socks spin-off,
you know what? That would be a better film.
Well, you know we're going to get it, or a TV show.
If we get the Socks. So if we get the part where Socks is... Because he leaves Socks on his own for 60 years. Something like that. If we get the story of Socks being left on his own on this planet for 60 years, that would be probably a better film.
Okay. Right, so rating out of 5, David. What's your rating out of 5?
2.
2? Wow, okay.
2, 3, maybe a 3, actually. It's a bit harsh. It's still decently animated.
No, but a 2 is a miss. A 3 is a minor recommendation. Oh, and also, did your 9-year-old sister enjoy it?
She enjoyed it, yeah, she loved it.
Right, so is it a failure then?
So that's why I'm leaning more towards a 3.
That's why you have to wonder, right? If it's designed for kids.
Yeah, exactly.
If kids enjoy it.
But you're
going to say kids enjoy some real rubbish.
That's where I disagree, though, because with Pixar, that's what they do masterfully, is they create films not just for children. They're for all audience. There is not a single target audience that Pixar has. And this film felt like it was targeting more towards children. A nice little fact, though, of this film, which is quite nice, I'll end it on a nice note. Angus MacLean is the director of Lightyear, and he also wrote the story. Right. He was in the past when he was looking for jobs and he was, not a lesser known name, he was rejected by Pixar to work for them just as an animator because he didn't have the experience. So he went away, got the experience, and now he's directed his very own film.
Oh, nice.
Which is, I think that's a lovely story. Good on you, Angus.
Perhaps were they right to not hire him because it wasn't that good a film?
The direction of the film's fine. It's the story. For me, if the script.
But
he wrote it with 3 other people.
Well, there you go. Too many writers.
Would have been, like I said, the script would have been brilliant if it had a better conflict driving it. The conflict driving the film wasn't strong enough.
Alrighty then, I think it's time to move on to our TV reviews, and the first show in our TV section this week, I'm going to talk about a new show on Paramount Plus, which is the Yellowstone prequel show 1883, written and created by Taylor Sheridan, who, as an actor, was quite known for stuff, but he also wrote the excellent Sicario and Hell or High Water. And although known more as an actor in his earlier career, in recent years Sheridan has turned to directing as well as writing on films. He directed Wind River and the Angelina Jolie film Those Who Wish Me Dead, which wasn't bad. But I think what's really catapulted him to the forefront was the absolute mega success of his modern-day Western show, Yellowstone, that he created and acts in as well. Now, neither of us have actually seen Yellowstone, but an 1883 prequel that you could watch independent of the other show was something I thought, well, I'd enjoy, and I also thought something my dad would enjoy because he likes his Westerns. And it stars Mr. Cowboy himself. You can't get a guy who looks more like a cowboy than this man. It's Sam Elliott. And LaMonica Garrett, and they're a couple of ex-lawmen who take on the job of escorting a bunch of really, really useless German immigrants across the dangerous plains on the way to Oregon. And rounding out your main cast are country music superstars and real-life married couple, Tim McGraw and Faith Hill, who I've never seen act in anything before and was not even aware they were actors. And they play James and Margaret Dutton. And you know what, David? They're really good. They're actually really good in it. I would like... when you get a lot of musicians and want to become actors, again, I've not seen them in anything else other than this. And also, they come along for the ride because Tim McGraw's just referred to as the farmer when he's clearly, he's got a background and he knows how to handle himself in a shootout. I'm
just having a look at Tim McGraw. What else I know him from? He's the dad in The Blind Side.
They come along like Elliot's character realizes that McGraw can handle himself, and he's like, I want you to come along and help protect them as well. And then, we'll help protect your family on the way. And they travel, and then he travels with his wife, played by his wife in real life, and their 2 children, Elsa and John. Now, me and my dad, we have binged all 10 episodes in the last few weeks. And it's a brilliant show, David, but it's also massively frustrating. So I'm going to go on to the pros and what I like about it, and then I've got the cons. And what a con, David. Oh, my God. So Sam Elliott is on career best form as a widowed former captain with suicidal thoughts. The very opening start of the very first episode, you see that his family has perished due to illness, and he's just sitting there waiting to blow his brains out. And then his mate walks up and is like, nah, don't do that today. We got some Germans you need to go. Come on, let's go do that. It's going to be really dangerous and we could all die.
We've got some Germans we need to go and
kill. Germans to get across the plains. German immigrants.
Okay.
And then the guy's like, it's really dangerous and we're all probably going to die. He's like, okay, yeah, I'll do it. So, he's just kind of like delaying the inevitable there, kind of things. Like I said, Hill and McGraw, who I've never seen act before, are both absolutely excellent as a family who joined the wagon train. And the cinematography is truly stunning. It's almost all filmed on location in Texas or Montana, and it's some of the best TV cinematography you'll see all year. And the music throughout also is really mournful and also quite excellent. There's a great main theme to the show that you kind of get different versions of as it goes on. And in fact, the show was nominated for 3 Emmys, and 2 of them were for cinematography, and 1 of them was for music. So there you go. Probably 2 of the best things about the show actually got nominated. And then we've got Elsa, sweet Elsa, played by young Isabel May, who gets to play the feisty role of Hill and McGraw's daughter, who gives a great performance. However, David, she almost single-handedly ruins the whole show for me. Can you guess what she does?
Okay. I can imagine it's because she does some sort of monologue, because I know how much you love your monologues.
But, mate, it's the monologues. It's every episode we get not just one monologue at the start or one at the end to bookmark, or even 2, one at the end and one at the end. We get 4 monologues from her, and it just kills the momentum of the show dead. And what is absolutely bizarre is she's a good actress in the show. All the actors are spot on, right? When she's acting normally in a regular scene, brilliant, really good. Definitely going to have a big career ahead of her. But when she delivers these voiceovers, they're just terribly, terribly written and delivered by the actress. It sounds like her voice drops about 10 octaves. It's literally, and they're just inane ramblings. And it's so bizarre because everything else in the show, script-wise and performance-wise, is truly excellent. But my God, the monologues. They're, like I said, they are just inane ramblings. They are just her random thoughts, which means they don't take the story anywhere. She could literally be saying anything for a couple of minutes and none of it matters.
Would it be relevant to stuff that's happening in Yellowstone, though?
No, because it's just her inane teenage thoughts. Oh, mate, at one point, she's just laying on her back, talking about fucking clouds for about 2 minutes. Not having sex with clouds, just like looking at clouds. And literally, and this is, I'll apologise for the terrible, terrible southern accent, although it's probably on a par with hers here. I love clouds. Looking at them, sitting here. When do clouds know how to rain?
I don't know. How do clouds know? Why does rain even rain? Do you know why rain rains?
Why do clouds know how to rain?
Do you know what rain is? Where it comes from? How it gets here? It comes from the sky.
And that's what I don't get. Is like Sam Elliott will have a scene where he like walks into a bar.
So it's like she's fucking high talking about shit. Okay.
Like it's so funny. She
before she comes on set, she just has she gets herself there.
I reckon they were just doing ADR afterwards. Because when she does it when she's acting in the show, she's fine, she's good. You know, in the scene she's good, she's sparky, she's that typical feisty daughter who ignores her parents' rules, but the parents are okay with it because it's a tough world and she's got to be a woman who could get a husband, and she's also got to be a woman who can take care of herself. You know, it's such a slow-paced show, but because it's so beautifully filmed and well acted, you don't mind the slow pace. You know, it's like a hang show. You're watching it going, yep, I'm going to watch an hour episode where the whole plot is they have to cross a river. That's it. And the episode is called The River. You know, it's not brain surgery, but it's so well written in other areas. You know, there's a scene where Elliot's character walks into a bar, says some cold ass shit, and just shoots a bunch of people, and then delivers a great one line, and you're like, oh damn, that was awesome, that was so good. And then it cuts to death follows us everywhere on the road. What is death? You're like, oh, for fuck's sake! You know how I didn't like the monologues in Midnight Mass? They are Shakespeare.
Yeah, that was.
They are Shakespeare compared to this. Like. This would put you off monologues if you heard these monologues, man. I almost want to find a clip of one and send it to you, just so you can, even out of context, you can be like, yeah, that's not good. And I suppose one of the other cons is the absolute uselessness of the German immigrants. So many of them die every episode. You honestly start wondering if any of them will make it to the end of the show. I think it's like the third or fourth episode, second or third episode. You get a montage of them dying from just the most stupid, simple shit. One gets bit by a snake when they're taking a poo. Another one gets poisoned by drinking dirty water. Someone else just falls off their horse and like caves their skull in.
Have you seen that show, A Million Ways? Oh, it's a film, A Million Ways to Die in the West. Is it just like that? People just fucking die?
For no reason. Mate, this slot wouldn't be able to cross a road without getting hit by every car. That's how bad they are. And I'm just watching it going, why would you agree to take these people out? Like, there's so many scenes where, like, the two, like, law guys are just like, well, they need to toughen up, otherwise they're all going to die. They are all going to die. Then why did we take the job? Dunno. You know, it's kind of like that. But, do you know what? It is a beautifully filmed, excellent show. And it's got a couple of surprise cameos in it, David, early on. In fact, there's an actor you've already talked about in one of your reviews who appears in this show in a cameo.
Okay, so there's only three. It was either Tom Hanks, Austin Butler, or Chris Evans. I'm going to guess Chris Evans.
You're wrong, it's Tom Hanks. The Hanks rocks up.
Oh, okay.
But he rocks up in a flashback for about a minute, and he's never seen again. And you're like, that was Tom Hanks. Oh, was Tom Hanks doing it? Awesome, bring back Tom Hanks. Because it was a flash...
Maybe Tom Hanks is just a big fan.
I'm guessing, or he's friends with the director. And then, in a later episode, Rita Wilson, Tom Hanks' wife, turns up as like a shop owner. And I was like, that's Rita Wilson. What? And one scene and she's not in it. And then
what's going on here?
Second episode, Billy Bob Thornton. And he was even on the credit. He was put on the credits. And Billy Bob Thornton. I was like, yes, it's Billy Bob Thornton in a Western. Awesome. Because, you know, Fargo and just generally everything he's in. I was like, And again, he's just the lawman in one town and we don't see him again. And I was like, but these characters are better than what we've got. I mean, it's such a strange show.
I'm actually tempted to watch Yellowstone in 1883 because it's Paramount Plus, and there's nothing. And I'm waiting for Halo to just finish, so I might get my Paramount Plus subscription.
Honestly,
and watch Yellowstone. We need a new TV show now after Dairy Girls.
Yeah, I would start with 1883, mate, and then go on to the regular Yellowstone. Because from what I've read afterwards, I did a little bit of reading, and after the season finished, and I don't think there's going to be a season 2 of 1883. Put it that way. There is a lot of death.
Okay.
And I don't really see the point of doing a second season of it.
I think I'd like watching Yellowstone first, and then go. I'd like the fact that there's a prequel, and then you're like, oh, this guy's like granddaddy, and they mention this guy and this event happening in the show, and now we get to see it. I like that kind of shit. Despite
the beautiful cinematography and the great acting in largely most of it, it's pretty damn depressing in places. Like, things don't start great for them, then things get worse, then there's a whole lot of pain, misery, and suffering, and then there's some more. Do you ever watch the film The Road? Viggo Mortensen.
Yeah. With Viggo,
and, you know, stuff's bad, then it gets worse, then it gets even worse, and more bad stuff happens. And that's kind of what this show's like. What it does really well is that juxtaposition between the amazing, beautiful scenery and cinematography with the absolute uselessness and just brutal death. And like, death's around the corner all the time. Death is around the corner. And what annoys me, like I said, I hate the voiceover.
It's coming for you, Neil.
And it's a shame because her performance...
Death comes from everyone and everything.
Do you know what, that actually might be a...
Coming for you sooner.
That actually, the first bit of that might actually be a line from the thing. What is annoying is the cinematography is that good that those quiet scenes of introspection would have worked absolutely fine without the doom-laden voiceover. So at the end of the day, David, I think I'm going to give this a 6 out of 10 for me, which it could have easily been a 9 out of 10, but that voiceover is so bad.
Oh, wow. Voiceover fucked up 3 points.
3 points, mate, it took off this show. I need to calm down because it's so frustrating when it's a...
All right, go take a walk. Have a drink.
Honestly, mate, if I had to hear one more monologue from Elsa, I would drown myself in the nearest creek if I was on that show with her.
Let it go, Neil. Let it go.
Beautiful. Beautiful, David. That is your best segue ever.
That's also a Disney joke, but I don't know if you got the Disney joke.
What, when you
it wasn't really
when you said let it go, and her name's Elsa. Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, with Elsa. Yeah.
That's why I said that's...
I wondered why you said it was a segment. I did get confused.
I don't think you can hear what I'm saying clearly, man. I said that was a great segue.
Oh, yes.
I think you need to clear your ears out with some lime and hydrochloric acid. Actually, no, don't do that. I don't know if that works. I don't know anything about science. So my second show of the episode, David, is a shocker in that on the surface, it would be absolutely something I would never even consider in watching because it was no interest to me at all. And that is the BBC's new dramedy about 4 20-something girls in early 2000s Camden called Everything I Know About Love, which was based on the best-selling work of the same name written by Dolly Alderton. It's 7 episodes and it's all available on the iPlayer right now. And I reckon if I could see your face right now, David, as I record this, I bet you'd be making a face that says, yes, this is far, far, far from Neil's usual wheelhouse in terms of entertainment. However, it was listening to a mostly positive review of this on the Pilot TV podcast.
Is it? You've been telling me to fucking watch Dairy Girls for the last 5 years.
Yeah, and you've just binged the whole thing now, and you loved it, right? So there you go.
I did, but it's not far from what you'd watched before.
This show is... No, but I'm not talking about Dairy Girls. I'm talking about Everything I Know About Love, the show.
Yeah, I know, but what you've just said about that show sounds similar to...
Okay, well, look, this has been billed in some places as like a early 2000s British Sex and the City. Does that sound like someone I'd watch?
Oh, hell no.
Right, so, yeah. But I was listening to a really positive review of it on the Pilot TV podcast a few weeks back, and I was sitting there on Saturday night, and we watched our regular shows, and I'm kind of dozing. I was like, oh, yeah, they said this. Oh, well, I'll watch it and doze off. And I ended up watching all 7 episodes over the next 3 or 4 nights. 2 episodes a night. And the show stars Emma Appleton, Belle Powley, Marley Siu, and Aaliyah Offerden as 4 uni friends living in their first house in London post-uni. And the show is narrated by our lead character Maggie, played by Emma Appleton. And she starts off with a voiceover, but a good one, not a terrible one, because she doesn't keep coming back to it. And she says, this is a love story, but not the one you think. And it's really obvious from the start that this show is not going to be about, her relationship with the man in her life. It's going to be about the love story between best friends and how people grow up and grow apart and how they deal with that change in all the right and wrong ways. So the crux of the show really is the relationship between Mags and her best friend Birdie, who have been friends since early school days. Mags has always been the more outgoing and crazy one, and Birdie's always been the level-headed, sensible one. And here's one thing where it doesn't really ring true, because despite them being both super attractive, Birdie, quite bizarrely, has never had a boyfriend. And Mags sets her up with the housemate of the guy she's currently seeing, who's an absolute bell. This guy is such a bellend, David. He's a musician, and he calls himself Street.
I want to kill him already.
I know, yeah. He's... And he just, like... He's such... You know so many... You look at this guy and you're like, I've met people like you. You're an asshole. The good thing is, both boring housemates... He's got like a boring gym-obsessed Australian housemate. And I can't remember his name. Do you know, I think his name might even be David. But that's wrong because you never go to the gym. And you're not Australian.
Stand-up character.
But yeah, so Birdie and his roommate get together. And they hit it off really well. We get the other two housemates who still get good story arcs despite not being as much of the focus of the story. You've got Amara, who's stuck in a dead-end, boring property job that she hates, but she takes it because of family pressure, despite giving her dreams of being a dancer pushed to the side. Well, the other roommate, Nell, is growing increasingly bored with her boyfriend, Neil, and becomes attracted to a co-worker. So you've kind of got your four storylines going on there. But like I said, the story is really about the disintegration of the relationship between Mags and Birdie. Mags is always trying to be the life and soul of the party, continuously putting herself in ridiculous situations. It's that phrase that, you know, a lot of people hate now, which, she's a hot mess, David. In one episode, for example, she decides to get a cab to Liverpool from London to go to another party, and she arrives around daybreak when it's over. And she's like, just suddenly in Liverpool with no money. And her friend's just like, I will get you. And she's like, yeah, can you pay for a train to get me back? And she's like, no, I'm going to get you the bus because it's slower and it'll give you more time to think about what you did. But her friend's still paying for her to get home. I think the performances by all four actresses are amazingly strong. And I think what makes the show relatable is wherever you're male or female, no matter what age you are now, it's that all of us have been through that universal rite of passage where you have your best friends begin their first serious relationship and suddenly you're out of their life. And you're like a distant fourth or fifth on a list of priorities then. And, you know, it's then getting to know their partner's friends and who are usually clearly bellends that you don't like. And I think it's a universal situation for everyone in their life at some point. Emma Appleton as Mags is just brilliant in this because despite being an absolute bellend a lot of the time, she's charming enough to get away with it. You know, even after a big argument with her best friend, like I mentioned a bit with Liverpool, her friend still bails her out most of the time. Or a little funny story later on is the author of the book that the show is based on, Dolly Alderton. She actually worked as a story editor on a terrible, I'm told, because I've never watched it, reality TV show Made in Chelsea. And so, of course, later in this show, there's a massive piss take of that show where Mags gets a job working for a show like that called Airs and Graces. And working in TV myself, David, some of those scenes that are dramatised definitely happened to Alderton in real life. I am certain of it. You're just watching the shoots and you're like, this definitely happened in real life to the writer. She's definitely like venting it out here. I would say some of the cons there is quite a lot of normalisation of some pretty bad behaviour. And again, I don't know if that's just like being old now that I'm like, well, in my day. But like in the very first episode, Birdie gets peer pressured into doing cocaine in the first episode. And there's not really any downsides shown to the casual drug taking in the show. So, you know, like they always sort of, back in the day, when Trainspotting came out, everyone was like, oh, it makes heroin cool. No, if you watch Trainspotting, it doesn't make it cool. Like, everyone looks like death, and, you know, bad shit happened all the time in it.
Yeah, glorifies drug taking.
But, you know, because it was the cool film, and you watch this show, and you're like, they do all these drugs all the time, and there's never any, like, downside shown to it. It doesn't really show, obviously, you know,
that's because drugs.
Apparently so. I would also say that the final episode of the 7 takes a pretty different approach to the other episodes and mainly focuses in on one character. And I really would like to have seen more from the other characters and what they were doing. But do you know what, David? For this, I think I'm going to give it a solid 7 out of 10. And I think this is something that you and Natasha might like. I think this is or you'll hate the women in it and go, no, they're annoying. I hate them. Get in the bin.
I feel we're probably going to give Yellowstone and 1883 chance more than this, if I'm honest.
I would say it's a hard one. Between the two of them, if I had to recommend one, I can't recommend 1883 over this just purely because of the voiceover. Also, it's got loads of cheesy, bad early 2000s music that you'll recognise and probably like, David.
I do like early 2000s
if you like
music. Actually, no, I'm more of a 90s.
If you liked your Derry Girls soundtrack, then you'll like this. And in our spoilers section today, we're going to have a little chat about the finale, and it's a few weeks ago now, of Kenobi. Now, David, when we last talked about this and we had Charlie on, me and him were a bit more down on it than you. You seemed to enjoy it quite a bit more than I did. And at the time, I think I said that it was a lot better than Boba Fett, but it wasn't a patch on The Mandalorian. Now we've finished the show. What are your thoughts on the finale of Kenobi?
Warning, people. Spoilers ahead.
I think... Okay, so it should be stated that we watched this a while ago.
Yeah.
And my memory, as you know, Neil, isn't the best place to be. It's not the greatest.
I would argue, David, that if the show was that good, we would remember what happened and not have to Google.
You are correct, and I remember a lot of the smaller element or the larger elements of it, but it's the smaller elements that I'm not too, and some side character stories that I'm not too. I can't really remember off the top of my head. However, I think the last episode in particular, the finale, was the best episode of Obi-Wan Kenobi overall. I think it was fan service done pretty well. Basically gave exactly what the fans wanted all in one episode. So the big problem with Kenobi is that there's no risk involved in any of the characters. Yeah. Because we know everything has to stay canonical.
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 Everything has to lead up to where the characters are for the start of
A New Hope, exactly. And there's some elements in A New Hope where people are like, hang on a second, Leia says this line, but she doesn't know that she's never met Obi-Wan Kenobi, and there's fucking meltdown with fans. So a lot of it, I had to tie a lot of it together again, and it did everything pretty fucking well. And it made you, for me, with a film which has got low stakes, because you know nothing's going to fucking happen to Luke when he's getting chased by Reva, was her name? You've
forgotten Reva, the best character in the show.
Character names. When he's being chased by Reva, that was, it's a low stakes scenario, right? Because you know Luke survives, but they still managed to maintain and build tension in that moment.
Did they?
Where you were like, oh shit, is a little boy, is he gonna... Yeah, they did. I felt it. I felt the tension in that moment. Knowing that I know Luke survives, he's going to be perfectly fine in this scenario, I still felt the tension and build-up of that happening.
I felt nothing.
The fight between Obi-Wan and Vader / Anakin...
That was the best thing.
...was beautiful. It was the moment, like, when fucking Obi-Wan lifts his arms and there's floaty rocks going, like, pelting into him, like, and when whoever's idea it was to slice off Vader's mask and have Anakin's voice and James L. Jones's voice mixed together when he's talking was bravo, sir.
That's literally my note there, man. My first positive note was the sound mix in the fight between Vader and Anakin was amazing, showing that duality between Vader and Anakin and how, like, it's just... But having said that, they're doing the whole thing, oh, is he all Vader, is he all Anakin? And it's pretty obvious. No, he's full Vader now. Like, Anakin is dead. The whole show, Kenobi... Well, once Kenobi found out Anakin was still alive... I mean, I don't know who he thought Vader was for the, when, like, how had he not heard? Oh, by the way, the Imperials got this big bad guy who's, like, going around killing everyone, and he's hunting Jedi, and his name's Darth Vader. Oh, cool. Okay, well, I'll give him a miss. And then he's like, oh, Anakin. Oh, of course, yeah, Anakin's Vader. You know, it's just like, well...
One thing with Star Wars is it was always quite difficult to imagine Anakin behind the mask. So breaking that barrier, and for you to see Anakin as the man, like, being Vader, it did well to break down that barrier, and that sound mixing between, as he was phasing between the two, was just fucking genius. It was genius.
My thought was, Obi-Wan's whole basic character motivation for the show is, he's moping in the desert about Anakin. The whole show. And all that really happens is after this a fair play, amazing fight. Although the whole throwing rocks thing, that's just taken from one of the Star Wars video games. Just like Darth Vader pulling the ship down in one of the other episodes. They've just cribbed it straight from the Force Awakens games. All those cool moments, which they are cool moments, but also they're just massively fan servicey. And and again,
there's nothing wrong with fan service when it's done right.
Is it done right though? Because you're telling me, and again, we went through this in the other one, and I think Charlie Gallagher mentioned this himself. He's like, why couldn't he just pull him through the fire? There's a little bit of fire up. This guy can pull a starship out of the sky and pull it apart with his hands, but he can't pull the guy through fire or just make a fire go out. That's terrible writing. That's no consistency between episodes and characters right there.
Yeah, well, you know what, Neil? The plot didn't need him to use the Force there.
That's terrible. That's the worst.
Hey, the Force is a plot device that many fail to understand.
Yeah, clearly. And all 11 of the writers on this show as well, apparently. But, I mean, that's the crux of the fight was Vader essentially going, no, Anakin's dead, I'm Vader. You didn't kill Anakin, I did. And Obi-Wan's like, oh, cool. I'm not guilty about it anymore. Let's fight. Essentially is what happens, isn't it?
Oh, they were always going to fight leading up to that.
They were always going to have a proper fight after that shit one in the earlier
There was
episode.
a conflict, yeah.
This is where we're going to talk about Liam Neeson's inevitable cameo here, because it's in the wrong place. Surely it should have...
I was disappointed it happened so late as well.
It should have been when he was buried under the rocks. It literally should have been then. What are you doing down here?
Yeah, I expected it then as well.
And then at the end, he literally... He just turned up and he's just like, what took you so long? Oh, I was in Derry Girls doing a cameo there. And that is essentially it. He's like, he literally delivers about 2 lines and that's it. So
I wonder how much he got paid for those lines.
Probably more than me and you make combined in a year, man. Easy. He's big Liam.
But no, I did enjoy it. I enjoyed it for what it was.
What it was. Don't do a prequel TV series backstory to every major character. Leave a bit of mystery, leave a bit of flair, and make new stories in the Star Wars universe, which is what we want to see. Right, Reva, who for me was the best character until, and we saw her turn coming from day one. We're all like, yep, she's going to be one of the younglings who survived. And it was a nice little twist that, okay, she was doing it to get close to Vader. But how many people did she kill just to get close to Vader and pick that perfect moment to kill him?
To be honest, her twist where she was actually kind of a good person
didn't work.
Fit with me. Because of those exact reasons, her brutality leading up to it.
You're just as bad as him. And if we had the scene, did we have? I think we had the scene, which is like where he's like, "You're not him yet," or something like that. I think Obi-Wan says to her. So he kind of got it, but it was so heavily handed done. And so after she survived getting stabbed with a lightsaber by Vader as well, which apparently I haven't seen anywhere else happen.
No, that's fine, mate. No, that's cool. That's fine. That happens all the time in Star Wars.
I'm going to stab someone.
The dark side of the Force and the light side of the Force. You're able what's his name? Darth Maul gets cut in half. He's fine. He survives.
Does he?
Yeah, man. He's in the Clone Wars. He's like the main villain in the Clone Wars.
Okay, well, I haven't.
Or he's one of the main. He's in the Clone Wars. So after Darth Maul gets cut in half, he's cool, man. He's groovy. He pulls himself back together. He gets little robot legs or whatever.
Right, anyway, but we was talking about Reva and how she was the only character that was interesting to me because she's the only character who we hadn't heard of before, who was like a key character in this. All the other support characters, they were just there to enable Obi-Wan and Leia to carry on doing what they're doing, and none of them have turned up in anything else. So you don't really care that much about them. With Reva, at least you thought, well, potentially her character could go somewhere. And then, at the end of episode 5, I think it was, or the penultimate episode, we have her make the absolutely ridiculous, stupid decision when she sees Jimmy Smith's little hologram message going, I'm coming to get the boy on Tatooine, or something like that. She goes there to kill the boy. Now, is it made clear at any point who Luke is? Or who she... I was just like, wait, so you're...
Yeah, I think it is pretty clear in that message.
Vader didn't go to Tatooine. Imagine if she'd gone to Tatooine. Why? She wanted to kill Vader, right? Why does she go to where Kenobi is going to go? Why doesn't she go where Vader's going to go?
She wants to hurt Vader in any way possible.
It doesn't make any sense. A character motivation point.
Kill his son.
Huh? But she doesn't know that. No, she doesn't.
Does.
It's never explicitly mentioned. I'm sure of it. She just go... And again, if she's not sure, she's prepared to kill a child. and she's supposed to have now had this turn. And
no, I think you're wrong. I think it is. I don't
think it is. It's hinted at, but it's not explicitly made it. And the fact she's going there and then I love the fact that when they know she's on her way, they go to like Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru. Don't worry, we're going to protect him. We'll never let They immediately lose him in the desert, and you're like, I'm sorry, but
yeah, they're the worst.
They were terrible. They take on Reva and survive with literally no damage to them. And yet they get taken out by a couple of stormtroopers and burnt alive in the New Hope.
You don't know how many stormtroopers came though. There could have been fucking loads. I think there is something where we see the stormtroopers coming for him. I think in fan art or something, and it's like a lot. It's like a whole battalion.
And they got flamethrowers. That image is still shocking to me to this day, man. That they made it into Star Wars. Like you've got burning skeletons, man. That like imprinted itself on my young brain forever.
With this show though, what I thought was. Because I was trying to think of ways that characters could be in harm or danger while still making it canonical. So I thought, Vader, you could have fucking mutilated Vader. Vader could quite literally have been decapitated and it would still be canonical because he's basically all machine anyway. So he could have been mutated completely. His arms and legs could have been chopped off. His torso could have been ripped apart.
Like arms and legs chipped off.
Everything. Like more so, and it still would have been, and it's still. I was just saying like that's the way where that character could have been in danger. And I was trying to think in A New Hope, do we ever see Obi-Wan Kenobi's legs? And I was thinking, could he have little robot legs under there?
Oh my god,
under that little Jedi.
You thought
thing?
Way too much about this.
And one silly thing that my friend pointed out. Was that when the Inquisitors are all looking for Kenobi on Tatooine, he still kind of fucking dresses like a Jedi. They don't just turn up and be like, that guy's dressing like a Jedi. What's his deal?
I've got one more thing that annoyed me as well, man. Well, not annoyed me, but everyone was going on, like it's a big thing, and it just completely lost its appeal because we've seen it so many times now. And that was Ian McDiarmid's Palpatine turning up again in it. And I think because of what they do with it in Rise of Skywalker, I'm just like, enough with the Emperor. Enough with this whole Skywalker storyline. In the end, I think my opinion stays exactly where it was before the finale. It's nowhere close to the greatness of Mando, and it's just better than Boba Fett for me. And Boba Fett was pretty bad. I mean, Boba Fett was so bad that they got rid of Boba Fett for 2 episodes in his own show and just put another episode of The Mandalorian in.
I didn't mind Boba Fett as much as you hated it. I thought it wasn't as good as The Mandalorian, but it wasn't terrible.
Let's dick around with sand people in the desert for 4 episodes. Yay! Oh, are they all going to get slaughtered? I bet they are. Let's have a flashback in the Bacta tank. A flashback to tank.
I'm preferring all this Star Wars TV content than I am all the Marvel TV content.
I think I prefer the Marvel. Marvel, I think, but it's because Marvel are putting more out there. At the minute, WandaVision is still the best show for me. Then I was going to put Loki at number 2. And then I would say Hawkeye, Miss Marvel, and the rest I can't even remember, to be fair. Moon Knight, lost me. It was great. It had some really good bits in it, but as a full show, it didn't really connect. And Falcon and the Winter Soldier is rock bottom because it was terrible. Flag smashes my ass.
Yeah, fair enough. What If as well.
What if Bizarre was a weird one because it got better once they started serializing it about 4 episodes in and have an ongoing story between the episodes. With Star Wars, the next Star Wars thing we're going to see, David, is...
It's either Mando 3 or it's... Oh, is it The Bad Batch?
Live action. Not Mando. Mando's coming March or February 2023. It is the most anticipated... Sorry, I misread that wrong. It's the least anticipated Star Wars show ever. It's the Rogue One prequel TV show, Andor, starring Diego Luna as Cassian Andor, rebel spy and assassin, who we already know dies in Rogue One. But do you know what, David? They're that confident in this show, they're already working on the second series of it. And it's got 12 episodes a season. Now, I'm a bit more hopeful about this. Diego Luna is a fantastic actor. They are not beholden to the lore of the Skywalker saga like these other shows have been. So, he's the only character we really know about. I mean, I'm pretty sure, generally a lot of people like Rogue One, didn't they? I think the thing is, because they're not so beholden to the Skywalker saga, they've got a lot more scope in what they can do. And I would be quite happy if this had the tone and following a rebel assassin murdering and sabotaging Imperial bases. I think it'd be cool. I'm a bit more hopeful about this show because they've got more faith in it. I don't think they'd give it 24 episodes over 2 seasons if it was just a 6-episode one and done. So I'm hoping clearly that they've got a really strong idea on where they want to take this show.
Yeah. Well, I completely forgot it existed when thinking about it, but I'm starting to watch it. Like I said, I'm more excited about the Star Wars content that's dropping. And I'm not a huge Star Wars fan than I am the Marvel.
Are you telling me you're not blown
content
away
that's
by
coming
the
out at the
She-Hulk Attorney at Law trailer?
And you know what? I'm not, Neil. It didn't tickle my fancy.
Well, I think we can draw the line in the sand there, and hopefully we'll never go back to Tatooine or another desert sand planet for quite a while in Star Wars. And finally today, David, we're going to talk spoilers on Scott Derrickson's The Black Phone. I believe you have thoughts on this, David. I saw it at a preview a little while ago, and then you caught up with it in your many days of leisure recently. You messaged me, I beforehand, when we talked about this before, I mentioned about it's got a couple of jump scares in it. One was the obvious one when he sees the first kid in the basement, which we all saw coming. So, but, people still jumped when I saw it. But for me, the one in the street when his sister is looking for him and all the dead kids appear in a jump cut outside the house, that made everyone in the cinema jump. Literally, as I mentioned last time, these 2 girls sat just below me. One of them jumped literally into the other girl's lap because she was that scared by it. And Mr. Hardman David was not scared by either of them. Apparently.
Nah, man. I'm not. I don't jump easily with shows. I get that little internal jump that you get, but I'm not somebody that physically moves when they jump, like with these jump scares. That one didn't get me. That one barely even got like a little internal jump out of me. I think with Scott Derrickson, the director, he got me once with a jump scare in Sinister with the lawnmower. When that goes over somebody, that got me a little bit. That was probably the jump scare that got me the most outside of Hill House. That got me. Not many jump scares get me. Basically, that's because it's all formula. It's just build up. You know exactly when it's going to happen, and very rarely do they catch you out. I can understand why you felt this one was going to get you because it's happening at daylight. It breaks the formula a little bit.
I just feel you're soulless and it shouldn't have affected you, and I worry for your immortal soul because everyone else jumps, and that's the whole point of a jump scare. It's to make you jump, and when you're not expecting it. That's literally the whole point of it. And no one was expecting like 5 ghost kids to appear in the middle of the street in the middle of daylight. And
no, it didn't. No, it didn't
get
me.
I think that's
don't know
your
why.
fault because that is very similar, I think, to the jump scare in Haunting of Hill House with the bit in the car because you're not expecting it. It's just a regular conversation, and then boom.
Nah, see that's better because you're so engaged
fair enough.
in
it is
the
better.
Conversation that they're having. That's why it gets you. Whereas it's just she's riding a bike and she's trying to get somewhere really quickly, and then it happens, and then you're like, okay.
Well, I'll tell you what I like about it as well, man. It feels a little bit like It crossed with Dazed and Confused, which are just 2 brilliant movies anyway. It has made over 100 million at the box office worldwide so far, and from a good old regular Blumhouse budget of, have a guess how much?
10 million?
18 million. So it's made 5 times its budget back already, and it's dropping on streaming in the States this Friday as we record this. So they are just like milking it straight away. But why not, man? Now, I liked how Gwen's psychic powers were treated by the father in it. And it's clear that their mother suffered from the same vision somewhat more so because she died, right? We don't... You've seen it more recently than me. Did she commit suicide or was she killed or...
I don't think it's
ever just leave them
mentioned how she dies, is it? It's never really explored. She had these psychic abilities that Gwen has. And it was more so the dad is obviously very abusive and struggled to deal with the fact that she was dealing with it as well.
I mean, I did think, yes, I wasn't sure whether it was explicit or implicit. So, what happened to the mother? Yeah. I got to mention, I think Jeremy Davis, the dad, plays a really good role in this because he's obviously beating them, and you think, oh yeah, typical alcoholic, but you do see him care for them later on. It's kind of...
The performances in this, from pretty much like 80% of the cast, is fucking outstanding. The moment where he's beating Gwen.
Oh yeah, man.
That was fucking hard to watch because it was so.
Oh, well, speaking of Gwen, she clearly liked my review of the film, as we got a retweet from our review of it.
The Madeline McCaw and Mason Thames
played Finney, yeah.
Finney. both of them.
I think we're going to be seeing a lot of them over the years. And we also got a like from director Scott Derrickson the other week as well. So, yep. And it's not just because we like the film. I'm guessing it is because we like it. I suppose if we'd written this film sucked, they were terrible, we probably wouldn't have got a like or a retweet. But also, we didn't do it because of that. It's just, it is a really good film. It's a proper it's a nice little low budget chiller. Essentially, it's just people in a room talking. But it's so well done. You mentioned offline when we were chatting that you kept expecting a twist at the end. But I would argue it was more of a twist that we didn't have that standard twist at the end. That last bit where the killer comes back for one more thing, or there's another ghostly flash or something like that. And it didn't have one. It didn't need it.
Because I thought I noticed something that you probably weren't meant to notice, or it was there and you get it at the twist at the end, which was I fucking swear to Christ that when the police officer is in the assembly, I need to watch the film again. When the police officer is in the assembly telling everybody that another kid's gone missing, I fucking swear to Christ, Ethan Hawke, the grabber, is standing right next to him when he's giving that speech to the kids. I fucking swear it. I'll have to watch it again. But so I thought the twist was going to be that the grabber's working for the police thing. Like, he's a part of the police force the entire time, That's why he hasn't been caught, and that's why he's always a step ahead of them. I always thought that there was something that was going to happen. Like, what's the deal with the brother? Like, I felt like the brother was kind of just there for no fucking reason, really. And I felt like there was always going to be something there with the twist, and it never, there wasn't. It just never came.
I'd argue it didn't need a twist.
It did feel me kind of lacking one though. I did leave it feeling like
I don't think
it was
did.
unresolved.
I think the whole idea of the film is that it doesn't need a twist because we're so conditioned in these type of films to have a twist that actually not having a twist is a twist. But like I want to mention that earlier on, the whole crux of the film is you get those really, really harsh, brutal bullying scenes early in the film. You get, the initial fight where Finney gets beaten up by the other guys and the other kid comes in to help him, Robin comes in to help him. And then later on, you get the thing when him and Gwen both get beaten up. And as early on, Mason, seemingly Robin's his only kind of friend. And he tells him early on, look, you need to learn how to fight back. And it's this fight that Finney's going to need to survive the grabber. And that is the journey of the story. And like, what is great is all these things the kids are telling him about through the phone to set up this, set up that. I didn't realise it that all the bits they were telling him, I thought they were just explaining different ways for him to try and escape. I didn't realise that every different thing he was doing was actually linked up to this one big plan for when he actually gets him and full-on murders him at the end. And I loved it. I was just like, did you see that coming? That all the different phone calls and all the different things he was doing were all part of the same plan?
No, I did like that, how all the phone calls led up to him basically getting the opportunity to kill him in some way. Yeah. I did know. I didn't see it coming. I didn't see that coming, how he was going to bring it all together. And how all the phone calls became them speaking to the grabber as well.
I think we could have done about a bit more with the masks being explained, because I thought it was going to kind of be this split personality thing coming on where one mask he tries to help him.
Because the mask it was two different sections of a mask. It wasn't it? You could take the top off and you could take the bottom off if you wanted. But there was the mask with him with the broad smile, which is fucking creepy as fuck. And then there was the one of him with the sort of, it was just like a sort of a deadpan kind of frown in the mouth.
And what I thought we was going to get, I thought it was going to kind of be a split personality thing where, when he's got on the small smiley mask, he's trying to help Mason and he's more polite to him. And he does really want to let him go if he just keeps away from the other guy. And then the other mask is the killer just biding his time and trying to trick him. I love the tension build up. I mean, that scene when he's walking up the stairs and the phone call the guy, he gets that call to tell him it's a trap. No, he's waiting for you up there. And you just see that shot of him sitting there with the strap. And he gets frustrated because Finney is not playing the game. And I've read some good stuff online where people have said, well, look, that's why he gets frustrated. That's why he survived so long. Is because he's not playing the game. If he plays the game and misbehaves, if he doesn't misbehave by how the grabber interprets behaviour, then you can't punish him. And that's how he manages to survive so long. I actually like the stupid brother actually being the brother of the killer and, of course, getting an axe in the head. Because it's such a red herring. I know, and I bet you this is the one character you said 80% of the cast. This is the one 20% guy you didn't like, right?
What, the brother?
Yeah.
No. I like the brother. It was actually a couple of the child actors that I thought were quite not great.
And I think rounding off the black phone, the single greatest idea in it is the black phone itself is actually used to strangle and finally kill the grabber at the end of the film. Perfect. Perfect writing there.
Yeah, it was beautiful. It wasn't perfect writing for me, though. I disagree with that because Madeleine McCall, fucking fantastic actress, loved her performance and loved her character as well. However, her psychic abilities really did absolutely fucking nothing to resolve the plot
it's an Indiana Jones thing, isn't it?
She could have not been in the film, as in her abilities with the police and everything, and the film would have ended the exact same way.
Well, I mean, at least you got a lift home.
But yeah, the only difference is police were there to see him as he left the house. That's kind of it.
Yeah, on a logic point, you've got a good point there, but they needed to be there to make you think: is he going to get him just before he escapes?
I get it. It's like they're there to build tension and everything.
And exactly because we've already had the scene where he escaped and got caught again. So you need to up the stakes of it, don't you? You need that police race against time thing. So I get why it's there. I also get your problem with it, which is a very valid point there, David.
Yes, it was pretty. Yeah, it was, in the end, it was pointless.
It was the whole Indiana Jones Raiders of the Lost Ark thing, where everything would have happened just as is if he hadn't even been there. He could have just stayed back at his college teaching people ancient history and not melting faces off. Okay, well, from melting faces, I think we're about done here today on the Weenie and Rose podcast, and this has been our 40th episode. This is 40. David, that's the next big birthday you have now. How do you feel about that?
Oh, why would you say that?
Because there's only 1 decade separating us in age now, not 2, and I can laugh at you about it. Ha 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 ha. And we'll see you next time, folks. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.